Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jonathan here. So, I saw the absolute craziest news story today, and I wanted to share it with you guys. Apparently, the governor of California, Governor Gavin Newsom, is proposing an $11 billion relief package for Californian for Cal for people in California who I'm sorry, for people who in California facing these high gas prices. And just to put in perspective, I live in Northern California, which doesn't even have the highest gas prices in the state, and I haven't been to a gas station that's below like 5.30 for the past I want to say almost a month now. So these gas prices are getting absolutely ridiculous. Just even the other day, I was in LA and went to Beverly Hills, and I believe the gas prices there were like in the $6 range. I think they're like, I think it was like $6.50. It's absolutely insane. So it does make sense why we're seeing this, but let me stop talking and let's just get right into the article because I think that there's some really important things. I really think it's important that we go through this together. So So the first line says that they plan on providing $2 billion of relief for free public transportation for the next 3 months, and also using that money to pause a portion of the sales tax on diesel and suspending inflationary adjustments on gas and diesel taxes. So let's break it down here. So the first part, the free public transportation for 3 months. For me personally, I'm totally on board with that. I think that I'm sorry, I had to check something there. I think I'm totally on board with that. I think that when it comes to so one of the things about inflation is that inflation is a very one of the things about rising prices, especially in staples like gasoline, is that it usually is a regressive tax and it hurts the poor the most. So I'm totally on board with us providing free public transportation, given that a lot, usually, generally speaking, is more of people who don't have the high incomes who usually end up using public transportation anyways. So the pausing of the gas tax on diesel, I'm for that. I think realistically they should just pause the gas tax altogether. But let's go. But I'll go into my thoughts on this later on. So the next line talks about $500 million to support active transportation programs like walking and biking projects. Even though I think this is great, I don't really think this is realistic. I'll give you my perspective on it, being a civil engineer. That like honestly, let's say this thing passed tomorrow, they'll be happy to have a design done by the end of the year. And at that point, it's like, how does this even help us with the gas prices that we have now? Because from what we've heard is that most of it has to do with what's going on in Ukraine, and most people don't expect this. Most people don't expect that situation to last for that long. They expect it to be something that will get resolved within the next couple of months at the latest. Now, it could drag out and become a much longer thing, but we'll have to kind of see. We'll kind of have to see what comes out of it. So for me, I think that this is kind of just like something that he just put inside. I think that's something that he just put inside his proposal just to appease some people. But honestly, I don't really think it really gets to the heart of the matter of the problem that's going on right now. So fast tracking $1.75 billion of the governor's historic $10 billion ZEV package to get more Californians into cleaner vehicles faster and build charging stations. So here's the thing about, I think when it comes to building charging stations, it's the same thing. It's the same problem that we're going to have with building charging stations that they're going to have with these walking and biking projects that they plan to implement as well. Is that they're not going to happen fast enough to really impact anyone. So, and not only on top of that, but also like right now we have such a giant car shortage. I mean, I was even looking at the Tesla Model 3s the other day, and now the starting price on them is like almost 60 grand. It's absolutely wild, and I don't know like unless if they're going to subsidize EV cars, and even if they were to, it doesn't even matter because companies that make EV cars like Tesla are having a hard time manufacturing enough to even meet their normal demand. If they go and try to supplement it, it's just going to make that situation much worse for a lot of these car manufacturers. So I don't really know how they plan to execute this. I think that this is like I will say this again. This is a proposal. It's just off of the governor's desk. So it hasn't been fully built out, but this is something to watch out for because I really wonder how they plan on incorporating this in a way that will be effective in the short term. So it talks about how Gavin Newsom, he unveiled his details of his $11 billion relief to Californians facing high tax prices, blah, 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 blah. It's Putin's fault because of the invasion of Ukraine. Okay, we know that. Whatever. And then they talk about in more detail his proposal calls for $9 billion of tax refunds to Californians in the form of $400 direct payments per vehicle, capped at 2 vehicles. So for me, the thing about these direct payments, the thing about this direct payments, and it talks about it down here that eligibility will be based on vehicle registration and not tax records. And the problem is that it's open to all Californians. And for me, we already have record high inflation. I mean, our last CPI print, I believe we got 7.9% on it. Most likely, the next print that we're going to get is going to be significantly worse, given that a lot of the increase in the cost of oil, we still haven't factored that in yet because you have to think Russia invaded Ukraine. I believe it was like 3 or 4 days before the end of February. So we didn't really feel the effect of gas prices rising until about a week or two from that event. And because of that, we're not even going to see, we didn't see any of the increase in gas prices on the last CPI print, and it still went up. So that means that this next one we're going to get is going to be a whole lot worse. So for me, when we're going through this situation where we have very aggressive inflation, I'm not a big fan of adding more money to this market when the Federal Reserve is trying to pull money from the markets. And I think I'll just give my opinion here that it would have been much better if the state was to say, okay, we're going to just completely get rid of the gas tax altogether temporarily, and then we're going to backfund it with this. We're going to backfund it with this $9 billion, so in that way all the construction projects can go on. For those of you who don't know, gas tax money is usually used to make repairs on highways and other roadways throughout the state. That's usually what gas taxes are used throughout most, if not all, states in the U.S. So, I think the problem is that when you start adding money to, so like I said, when you start adding money to a system that's already very highly stimulated and also in a very high inflationary environment, I think it's almost to a point of irresponsibility. And I know like $11 billion isn't going to make that big of a dent inside the whole U.S. economy, but it definitely is something that is adding on to inflation. Because think about it, if you're making, I don't know, let's just say you're making $200,000 a year, you get that $400 check, what are you going to do with it? You're going to go out and go get $100 steaks and go to the fanciest movies and go buy yourself some new shoes. Like, you're going to blow it because it doesn't matter to you that gas prices are so high. It's just because you already have the money to cover it. I would much rather see the state go and say, okay, if you make under $40,000-$50,000 a year, we're gonna send you this one-time payment of $400 to get you through, so you don't have to pay for gas. That I think would have been a much better way to go. And then the other thing about this as well is that it's like, okay, well, yeah, if they go and they back fund the gas taxes that they are temporarily getting rid of, wouldn't that also cause inflation as well? It would. But the thing is that at least that way, gas prices start to come down slowly. So in that way, people are like, oh well, when I get paid in 2 weeks, I can now go to the Cheesecake Factory with all my friends and go have like this big old meal. So it does cause inflation, but it trickles it in a little bit more slower versus when you just give someone a $400 check, that money is basically almost instantly going to go. That money is almost basically going to instantly go into markets. So, yeah, and then they just pretty much repeat everything we just talked about. So, that's my thoughts on it. I would think it would be better just to cut the gas tax altogether and just have that run for maybe 6 months, a year, whatever it may be, and use that $11 billion to back fund that. So then, this different state agencies the different agencies and government organizations that do handle road repair are funded. But I'm just one guy. I'm just one person with an opinion. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so you get notified when I post any videos. And I'll